It makes it so real, and it makes it fun. It makes it fun. When I'm using manipulatives, I love, as I said, I'd love to get on the carpet and open the box of base 10, open the box of Numicon, and then we're moving. We're making numbers, we're reading numbers, we're making sense of numbers, we're making numbers come alive. So why do we use manipulatives? Because, as I said earlier, it transforms the abstract numbers. Because you can say the number 34 to a young child, it means nothing. But if they can see 34, if they can see 34 objects, if they can touch and count 34 objects, it makes it meaningful, it makes it real. It deepens their conceptual understanding. And it just makes learning more engaging. And as I've said earlier, once you can reduce the maths anxiety, that's when you get the long-term retention and understanding of key math skills and knowledge. So I've explained what manipulatives are, why we use them, what's the importance, what's the relevance of manipulatives in the classroom, and the importance of having manipulatives. And I've been into hundreds of schools, and I often go into the classroom. I always go into the classroom, shall I say, and I look in the cupboards, and there's boxes upon boxes of manipulatives stacked away in the cupboard that have not been used for years. And for me, it's terrible, because there's children in the classroom who would benefit from just using the base 10, using the Numicon, using the place value counters, just getting them engaged. They don't have to be writing everything down in their books. You can take photographic evidence. You can talk to children. You can scribe what they're saying to you in their books. This is all part of assessment. So assessment for learning, AFL, assessment for learning comes in a variety of forms. And this is where the use of manipulatives makes maths come alive. So please, teachers, parents, get the currants and the raisins out. Get the bananas and the fruits out. Get the sprouts out and the peas out. Because these are all things that you can use to help with children's learning. Yes, it makes learning come alive. It makes it fun. Please use manipulatives. They are so important for children's learning and understanding. Now, there are a couple of terms that I'm going to be using in my show today, because a couple of head teachers who I saw this morning, they asked me to mention certain terms that we use that maybe, I don't want to use the word label, but there are certain terms, certain conditions that are ascribed to young children, and they're getting support and help with. And one of them is ADHD. ADHD. Now, a lot of people use ADHD. They've heard it, they use it, but a lot of people do not know what it really means. Okay, they've heard about it, and then they've been told that, oh, your child's got ADHD, or this person's got ADHD. It's not just a label. It's not just something that you can just say a child or a young person or an adult is. ADHD stands for attention, A, deficit, D, hyperactivity, H, and disorder, D. ADHD, attention, deficit, hyperactivity, disorder. It's a neurodevelopment disorder, and neuros to do with the brain. It's a neurodevelopment disorder that affects how the brain develops and how it functions and how it makes sense of words and math. Okay, it does not affect how, it's not about how you think, or if you've got ADHD, you're a low attainer. No, not at all. not at all. Okay, it's got nothing to do with that. Okay, in fact, using manipulatives helps children, particularly with ADHD, who struggle. And 60% of individuals with ADHD, 60%, that's over a half, yeah, also have learning challenges of other areas, other conditions. One of them is called dyscalculia, okay, and that's to do with numbers. I struggle to say the word, or dyslexia as well, okay. So dyscalculia or dyslexic. So people, adults, individuals, children with ADHD often also have the learning challenges of dyscalculia and dyslexia. So using manipulatives, it just helps to support the development of what we call the working memory. And that's the working memory is about having the ability to hold numbers while also simultaneously doing other calculations. So I might say to you, let's take the number 34, and then we're going to times 6 by 3, then we're going to add it to the 34. Can you retain that number 34, do the calculation, then add them together? That's just a really sort of raw example of what the working memory really means. So using manipulatives, it's good practice in the classroom. If I'm observing teachers, when I'm training my teachers in different colleges and institutions, I always have my bag of manipulatives with me, and I show them how to use the manipulatives. It's a hands-on lesson. And whatever I'm doing, I'm going to bring manipulatives into it. If I'm teaching about money, I'm going to bring manipulatives into it. If I'm teaching about fractions, amazing to use base 10 and Numicon. I'm going to bring manipulatives into it. Manipulatives come into every area of mathematics, and it is so important that teachers, parents, head teachers, maths leads, the training that you deliver, you're showing teachers how to use and implement the use of manipulatives in their training. Manipulatives, what do? They give young people the time to explore and experiment and get that awe and wonder of math. That's what manipulatives do. It's like it bridges the gap between the physical object and that math symbol. So if you're teaching about pi, 3.142, and so on, what is pi? What does it mean? What does pi mean? But if you can break it down, and if you can use manipulatives to teach pi, which you can, this is the biggest hurdle. And a young person will not forget it. They're going to have that long-term retention. Their maths anxiety is going to be reduced. So please, teachers, parents, adults, everyone, them the times tables, which I know a lot of parents, I know that you do it all the time. You start using manipulatives if you're not doing so already, and you're going to see the light bulb effect. The light bulb effect is children are going to say to you, oh my gosh, mum, dad, auntie, whatever it is, they're going to say, now I know what 3 times 4 means. Now I know what 3 times 4 looks like. Manipulatives. Manipulatives are the key. So, people, if I go to or place value counters, they're looking at me thinking, oh, we're not babies anymore, Mr. Numbervator. But the minute we start to use the manipulatives, and the minute I start to challenge them at their level and beyond with the manipulatives, they look at me and then they realize, oh my gosh, so we're not just using the base 10, to make the number 14, where you've got the rod and then you've got the 4 ones. No, you can do a lot more than that with the base 10, with the Numicon, with the place value counters, with the multi-link cubes, with the Cuisenaire rods. There's so many investigations. So when I talk about base 10, what exactly do I mean? Well, the base 10, called the Deans, okay, the actual umbrella name is the Deans, but as I said earlier, in the classroom, we call it base 10. Why? Because we're basing everything on this idea of 10, okay? It's to do with this number 10. So each size of the base 10 blocks is exactly 10 times larger than the one before, which is to its right. So if you visualize it, okay? So if you've got the small cube, you've got a really tiny cube, that's worth 1, okay? Remember, we don't use the word units in the classroom anymore. We use the word 1. So that is 1. Then you've got the rod, and the rod can contain 10 of those ones. So you can actually, what I do with young people, year 1, year 2, I get them to actually put 10 ones on top of 110, the rod. And then they can see that 10 ones is equivalent to 10, which is the same as 1 rod. So I hold the rod up and say, well, how much is this worth? And hopefully they say 10. Then I hold the same rod again, maybe 3 minutes later, and I ask them, how much is this rod worth? And hopefully they're going to say 10, because sometimes some children have to keep on counting, but it's a stage that they pass through. So the rod is always 10. Then you've got the flat, and then 10 lots of 10 make 1 flat, and the flat is 100. And as it says, it's a flat. Okay, so you've got the 1, the 10, and the 100, and then you've got the 1,000, which is the cube. So you've got 10 lots of 100, which is the cube. So can you see how special using the base 10 is? And what I do I've been doing with year 4s, because obviously they've just finished their MTC, multiplication tables check is finished now. I used to get them to make me numbers. So I'll say to them, right, everyone's got their own set of base 10. So if you're in a school, then there's always going to be enough base 10 in the school somewhere. So if it's for your lesson, you can ask your fellow teaching colleagues, and they will lend you their base 10 if they're not using it. There's always going to be plenty around the school. If you can't find them, then just go into the stock room, go to the back of the cupboard, you're going to find base 10 there, guaranteed. And I say to them, right, who can make me the number 37? And then they're going to have 3 rods, 10, 20, 30, and 7 ones. Then I might say to them, right, represent the number 17. Now, some children will wipe all of that 37 away and they'll start again. But some children will take away 20, leaving 17. So can you see, you can differentiate in terms of ability, in terms of understanding, and in terms of knowledge. You can stretch, you can challenge, but you can make it fun. So that's just the base 10. And I'm going to come on to it later on. Base 10 helps with regrouping. These are all terms that we use in the classroom. It can help with place value. It can help with the 4 operations. It can help with fractions and decimals. So base 10 for me is one of the more exciting manipulatives that we've got to use in the primary classroom. It is really quite exciting, because there is just so much you can do with it. And later on in the show, I'm going to be giving you examples of what you can do with the base 10. So I've mentioned ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I also want to just clarify, because someone sent me a message just to explain what dyslexia is. Dyslexia is also a neurodevelopmental, not disease, but it's a condition, and it affects how the brain processes the written and spoken language. It is not a reflection of intelligence. And it does affect the working memory. So the working memory needs to be managed if you've got dyslexia. But to be honest with you, some of the most brightest young people I've worked with have got dyslexia. And once I get the manipulatives out, I can literally move them from foundation stage, GCSE, to higher tier stage, or from just average into greater depth. That is how important, and that's how special using manipulatives can be. So I've given you two terms: ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and then dyslexia. Okay, so it's all to do with how the brain processes and makes sense of. And when I'm working with young people, adults and children who have got dyslexia or ADHD, I use manipulatives. I use a variety of resources that I know that they will be able to engage with. And that's what makes learning, for me, so much fun. That's what makes learning come alive. And that's what makes learning real. Now, this evening, today is a really, really special day. Yeah, I know it's the 17th of June, but I also know that England are playing in the World Cup today, 9 o'clock on BBC One, I believe, or ITV, one or two. I'm sure it's BBC One. England are playing their first game in the World Cup. Wow. So, in true Mr. Numbervator style, I want to give you some maths statistics about the World Cup, 2026 FIFA World Cup. So get your pens ready, because not everyone might know this information I'm going to give to you. Yes, you've got lovely sweepstake charts on the classroom door, on the wall in the staff room at home. But do you really know about the World Cup? How many teams? How many games? How many groups? Well, let me put you out of your misery. I'm going to do it now, okay? So 9 o'clock this evening, 17th of June, 2026, England play their game. Let's see what happens later. I'm not going to predict the score. But may the best team win. That's all I'm going to say. Right, so in the 2026 FIFA World Cup, and I'm mentioning 2020 because it's changed. It's changed from the last World Cup. The numbers change, okay? We've got 48 teams, okay? There are 48 teams in the 2026 FIFA World Cup. There are 48 teams, and there are 12 groups of 4 teams. And 12 times 4 from the times table is indeed 48. So there's 48 teams, there's 12 groups, and there's 4 teams within each of those groups. And each team plays each other, and it's the team with the top 2 teams, I believe, that get the top points, they go through, and then you have the runners up later on. Okay, there will be 104 games played altogether. Can you imagine that? 104 games played all together. 72 games in the Group 1 stage and 32 games in the knockout stage. And 72 plus 32 is indeed 104. And how do I know it's 104? Because I partitioned 72 into 70 and 2. I partitioned 32 into 30 and 2. I can number bond 70 and 30 is 100. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 100 plus 4 is 104. That's the teacher in me. Blaze, who is one of the most important members of Chalker Community Radio Station, if not the important member of Community Radio Station. She always says, "Isaac, Mr. Numbervator, do you see maths in everything?" Because we went to Wembley one day to watch a big match, and I was telling Blaze about, do you know the circumference of the center circle? Do you know the height of the goal? Do you know the distance from one goal to the other? She just looked at me with her mouth open, thinking, what is this guy on about? But she enjoyed the information. So anyway, there's Blaze for you. So each team will play a minimum of 3 matches, and a maximum of 8. So the maximum number any team can play is 8. So a minimum of 3, but there's a maximum. So not every team will get through to that maximum of 8. Because if you do 8 times 48, you know it's not gonna that's gonna go beyond 104 number. Okay. But yeah, but that's what's happening in the World Cup. So as you're watching the World Cup this evening, now I have to be very careful what I say here. Parents, families, carers, it's a special evening. A lot of children are going to want to watch England play in the World Cup this evening on television. I'm not going to say anything more. I don't want to incriminate myself. I don't want to get messages and phone calls saying you suggested or you told the children that. No. So I'm just going to say it again very politely. England are playing in the World Cup this evening. It's at 9 o'clock. You have to make that decision about whether children watch the match or they go to bed before the match or they go to bed straight after the match. It's up to you. But anyway, it's going to be an exciting match. Okay. So yeah, so that's the World Cup facts and stats that I've given you. 48 teams, 12 groups of 4, 104 games, 72 in the group stage, 32 in the knockout stage. Each team plays a minimum of 3 matches. A maximum a team can play is 8 matches. So no team can play more than 8 matches. And that's fair. But not every team is going to play 8 matches. Because if it was, 8 times 48 does not make 104. 8 times 48 is a way bigger number than 104. But I wanted just to sort of incorporate the World Cup into my show today, just to show that I'm on the scene, okay? I'm on the scene, okay? And so I know what's going on, and I know there's a lot of young people rushing home from school today. I saw them rushing home, talking about who's got what in the sweepstake, talking about how many goals are going to be scored, and so on and so on. So that's the World Cup. Okay, back to manipulatives. We're going to go for a short break. When we come back after the short break, I'm just going to be talking to you and explaining to you about manipulatives, what manipulatives you can use, you can buy, and then how to use them in the classroom. This Friday, really special evening. This Friday is the return of karaoke. Chalk Hill Community Radio Station karaoke night is the return of our karaoke. And we've got a new venue, and the venue is Posh LDN, and that's on the Harrow Road, 783 to 785 Harrow Road, Wembley. Posh LDN. Doors open at 6. It's free before 9, and it's £5 thereafter. And because it's the first show back after a little short break, it's represent your country, represent your flag. So wear your colours. There's going to be great food that you can buy, great vibes, great energy. Am I going to do a karaoke on Friday? I don't think so, but it depends on how I feel. Maybe Dean might want to come and do some karaoke. I don't know. Dean, if you can do karaoke, what would you sing to?
You're singing for England.
No. If we can do Dean said singing for England. Okay, but that's not. I don't know that.
No, that's John Barnes.
Is it John Barnes? Is that one of his songs?
Yeah, one of his songs.
Oh, okay. In that case, so Dean, if he does go to the karaoke, then that's what he's going to do. So I'll tell Blaze to put his name down on the slip there. So that's the karaoke this Friday, the 19th of June. So after a short break, I'm going to come back, and then we're going to be looking at how we can use different manipulatives in the classroom, what to do, how to use them, how to teach with them. Don't go too far. See you very shortly. I'm just going to tap here. See you shortly.
To unlock your full potential, learn locally at the College of North West London. With campuses in Wealdstone, Wembley Park, and Euston, we're here to help you take.
Yeah. So anyway, so did you enjoy the stats about the World Cup? Did you know that? 48 teams.
Expert tutor made all the difference to my learning.
Whether you're passionate about hair and beauty
12 groups of 4, 104
or
games.
aiming for university, we have a course
You didn't know? No.
Thanks to CNWL, I landed my dream apprenticeship and I'm well on my way to a successful career.
Apply today at cnwl.ac.
I'm that good. I've got meetings. I've got meetings.
Each of the kids.
Go to www.sovereigncomics.co.uk and get your latest issue of Mr. Numbervator's Maths comic book series today. You are now tuned in to the Mr. Numbervator show every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Tokyo Community Radio Station. Let's get mathematical. You are now tuned in to the Mr. Numbervator show every Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Tokyo Community Radio Station. Let's get mathematical.
Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of the Math Show with me, Mr. Numbervator, on Chalk Hill Community Radio Station. Apologies for there was a slight glitch in my control. I got a bit confused with the panel, but anyway, you can still hear me now. That's the main thing. Right. So before the ad break, we had some information, some knowledge, some teaching about what are manipulatives, what makes manipulatives, what's the purpose of them, what's the benefit of them, and so on. I then gave you some World Cup statistics and information and data because England's playing today. Ghana plays today at 12 o'clock. Or tomorrow at 12 o'clock. Well, I think it's tomorrow at 12 o'clock, Ghana's playing. So that's going to be, or today at 12 o'clock midnight. Anyway, Ghana's playing as well. Manipulatives, what are they? They take away the boredom and the frustration that some children have in the classroom. Because as I've said, not everyone enjoys learning about maths. I have to accept it because I love maths, but I also realize that not everyone is passionate about maths like I am. Not everyone enjoys maths. Not everyone can get a sense of the awe and wonder from maths. A lot of young people are scared of maths. They've got a fear of number, you see. So I always remember that, and I'm always very careful about using manipulatives with children like that so that they can engage with me and they can get the same enjoyment that somebody else is going to have who's maybe writing down 2 or 3 digit numbers. Using manipulatives, I use them a lot in my MTC teaching. MTC stands for the Multiplication Tables Check, and that's a statutory requirement for all Year 4 children up and down the country. They have to take the test, and this year it was from June the 1st to June the 15th, I believe. There's a 2-week window. And so it's finished now. And so the results I heard are coming out on Monday, the 22nd. I think that's what I heard correctly. So if it is on Monday, I'm going to get the information pretty soon. So that's quite a quick turnaround. So how do I use manipulative? Well, I use the place value counters. So I've explained what the place value counters look like. So they are round. They're like coins, but they're clear colored discs. And on some of the place value counters, you've got 1. So that represents 1 as a 1. Then you've got some that have got 10, some that have got hundreds, thousands, and 10,000 and so on. But for today's show, I'm looking at the 1s, 10s, hundreds, and thousands. And I just might say to the children, make me represent the number 124. So they're going to get one of the 100 discs, they're going to get 2 10s and 4 1s. Then I might say to them, make me 142. Now, they're not going to wipe the 124 away and start all over again. They're going to start from the number that they have just made. So they're either going to build or they're going to take away. And that's the learning behind manipulatives. That really starts making them think about addition and subtraction. So that's how I use the place value counters. When I'm using the base 10, especially with the MTC, I might say to children, right, show me what 24 looks like as an array. Now, in the primary maths classroom, what do we mean by an array? An array is an arrangement of the counters of the place value of the base 10 in rows and columns. So if I'm doing 24, I can have 6 rows of 4 or 4 rows of 6. So it's an array. An array is to do with rows and columns. And when you look at the word array, A-R-R-A-Y, it's come from the word arrangement. You don't spell arrangement with the Y, but A-R-R-A is the same first 4 letters of arrangement. And when you are putting together an array, you are arranging your manipulatives, your base 10, your counters in an arrangement of rows and columns. And when it comes to the base 10, to do with representing numbers in rows and columns, I'm also addressing a really, really important mathematical law called commutative law. Commutative law means 6 times 4 is the same as 4 times 6 because you get the same answer. And when you're using manipulatives to represent numbers, you appreciate the size of numbers as a physical amount. You can see the numbers on the table. It helps to speed the brain up. It helps your brain to engage visually. And this is what makes maths so exciting. And this is what is so important about using manipulatives in the classroom. So I've mentioned about the Ds, the base 10. So each size of the base 10 block, we call them blocks, is exactly 10 times bigger than the one to its right. So think about how it's arranged, okay, to its right. So you've got the ones, you've got the tens, you've got the hundreds, you've got the thousands, and so on, okay? So 10 times 1 is 10, 10 times 10 is 100, 10 times 100 is 1,000. So, you know, they are the blocks. And as I've said, if you go online and you just tap in base 10, or you just tap in Dean's blocks, Dean's is spelled D-I-E-N-E-S, Dean's. If you just tap it in, it will just show you what the Dean's look like. And then if you want to print them off, click on images, and then you can just download them, cut them out, and then you've got a resource at home. So you can sit around the table, you can play games with children and family. And that has got to be a good thing. You know, just 10 minutes, you know, after you've had your dinner, you're relaxing, 10 minutes before bedtime, bring out the Deans. Who can make the number 300 and whatever the quickest? Get children excited about number and get excited about learning. So that's the Deans. Numicon. Numicon is another favorite of mine, okay? So Numicon, oops, someone sent me a message about the Deans. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, someone sent a message about the Deans, that they use the Deans in their classroom, but they want different activities that they can do with fractions, percentages, and decimals. So I'm going to reply to my listener, and then I'll be able to communicate with her, because she left her name. I'll be able to communicate with her after the show and just give us some examples of activities that you can do to develop young children's understanding of percentages, fractions, and decimals, and so on. Numicon. So Numicon, it's the shapes that have got like the holes. So 1, you've got like a square, and you've got a hole in the middle, because that is 1. Then you've got 2, so then you've got 2 holes together, that makes 2. Then you've got 3, you've got 3 holes, 1, 2, 3. So it looks like the letter L, left to the right. So 3 is like the letter L. And then you've got 4, where you've got 4 holes, 5, you've got 5 holes, and so on and so on. But with the Numicon, it's a great way to learn about the difference between odd and even numbers. Because with even numbers, you've got everything's got its pair, everything's got its match. With odd numbers, you've always got 1 sticking out on its own. So, you know, I can get children to sort the Numicon into odd and even, make me an odd number, make me an even number. So, and that's a lovely way to explore, you know, it's a lovely way to explore one more you know, what is 1 more than 14? And then the children can actually show you what 1 more than 14 is, okay? When it comes to fractions, you can use 2 of the 5s, and the 5s are red, okay? You can use 2 of the 5 numicons, and you can put it on top of the 10 plate. So they're called plates. You can put it on top of the 10 plate, or put the 10 plate on top of the 5, on top of the 2 5s. That's fractions. That is fractions on top, 1 10 on top of the 2 5s. That is fractions, but that is fractions coming alive. That is real life fractions. And that's what makes manipulatives so important. I keep on mentioning the idea that we want our children to appreciate the size of number by being able to see what the number looks like. So you've represented the number, they can see the number. On the interactive whiteboard in most classrooms, you can actually move the base 10 around. You can actually move the deans. You can move the numicon around, and you can rotate them, and you can stack them, and you can make number. That is what makes maths come alive. So imagine you've got a group of children using the interactive whiteboard. You've got a group of children using the numicon, the physical hand-touched numicon on the table, and you've got some children who are solving calculations because they've had that CPA, which is the concrete, pictorial, abstract. They've passed through the different stages that children go through, and they're able to add and to take away using the numicon, using real numbers, because they can picture and they can see. So that's the numicon. Then you've got another one of my favorite, which is called the multi-link cubes. And with the multi-link cubes, you can build, you can combine, you can break up numbers, you can break numbers apart, you can do number bonds, you can do equal groups of. That is how children learn. And Piaget, a famous child psychologist, what did Piaget put? Piaget, I believe he was Swiss. What did Piaget say? Children learn best through doing. And those words echo and they ring with me till today. Children learn best through doing. I believe adults learn best through doing. I always give you the story that I cannot change my car tire. I've watched my friends change car tires hundreds of times, but I still cannot change a car tire. What does that make me? What does that make me? Nothing, because I haven't given it enough attention. I've actually got to do the actual changing of the tire, because once I've actually physically propped the car up, taken the wheel off, put it back on again, then it's about assimilation and accommodation of knowledge and information. And that's how children learn. We learn through doing, but children learn best through doing. So tonight we've spoken about manipulatives. We've spoken about the importance of manipulatives. We've spoken about the different types of manipulatives that you can get. I've only mentioned about 3 or 4, but there's loads out there, and you don't have to go and buy them. Use what you've got in the house. If you've got pasta shells in a packet or in a little jar, you can use them. Okay, you can use a packet of pasta shells. You can get for about 15 pence. What a lovely resource to have at home. And then you can divide them, you can share them at home. Dad's got so many, auntie's got so many, granny's got so many, Peter's got so many. And then you can play games. Who has got the most pasta shells? Count up and put them in order. And then you can say your number in order, ascending order, descending order. Can you see, just from using pasta shells, can you see all the rich vocabulary that I've just said on the radio? Ascending order, descending order, ordering, sequencing, greater than, less than, more than. This is all to do with mathematics. You model the good practice. You model the vocabulary with the young person. You model, they learn. But it's the fun. It's the fun. Can you imagine having pasta shells on the table or on the carpet? Then you're just playing about with them. Or you've got some currants or some raisins, and you'll put them into little groups, 3 groups of 4 raisins. How much altogether have you got? there's a lot. When you actually start to be creative, when you actually start to let your mind wander, there's so much that you can do. You know, matchsticks, cotton buds, whatever you've got at home that you can use to count with, it's a manipulative, it's a resource, it's a hands-on interactive learning tool. Okay, so whether you have got ADHD or dyslexia, using manipulatives is the best thing for you. And if you have got children who do not like to write things down, who do not like to do all their calculations in their books nicely written with the margin, the learning objective, the learning intention, the date, not everyone, we don't all learn like that. We do not all learn like that. So give children, young people, something else that they can do that is as challenging as the person who's writing in their books, because you can make it challenging. I was multiplying a 3-digit number by a 2-digit number using the base 10 the other day. Yes, I was doing it using the base 10. Then I got one child to sit with the other child who was doing it in the traditional column method. They compared their answers. And the same numbers, the same rows that the child who was writing it in their books had, is the same numbers and the rows that the child who was representing it using the base 10, the same numbers. And it was beautiful to see them talking and comparing. And they both were challenged at their level. That is one of the most important benefits of using manipulatives. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's show. Can I just remind you that England are playing in the World Cup this evening, June the 17th, is it? June the 17th today at 9 o'clock. England play their match. And just to remind everyone, 48 teams, 12 groups of 4, 104 games, 72 of those 104 are played in the group stage, and then 32 of the 104 are played in the knockout stage. 72 plus 32 equals 104. Each team plays a minimum of 3 games, and the maximum number a team can play is 8 matches. So enjoy the football, enjoy counting the goals that are going to go into the goals, whichever goal it is. And yeah, it's going to be an exciting evening. Thank you all for listening to the Maths Show with me, Mr. Numbervator, on Chalk Hill Community Radio Station. And I look forward to seeing you all again next week, whether we're live streaming or whether you're listening on the radio. Have a great evening, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.